Hey, Francisco here, founder of Led by Community. Today I'm excited to invite you to celebrate together the Community Manager Appreciation Day on Monday, 27th of this month. We have organized meetups all over the world, US, Europe, Australia, Asia, everywhere, to get together and celebrate as community builders and show appreciation for the work we do on behalf of our communities and our members. So this is your official invite to visit our website, communitymanagerday.com. Check if your city is listed, RSVP for one of the meetups, and if by any means there is no meetup in your city, you are welcome to organize one and submit to our Luma calendar so we can help you with the diffusion and the promotion of your local meetup as well to celebrate together this Community Manager Day 2025. With excitement about what this means for all of us, I came use a bit of AI and create a very cool song that you can enjoy just now. See you in the meetups. Bye bye.
In every city, every space, they bring us together, build a safe embrace. With hearts of gold and endless drive, they make the world a place to thrive.
This one's for the builders, the keepers of the flame, who craft a place where all belong, no matter your name. From London to New York, Berlin to the Bay, let's raise our voices high, it's their special day.
They're the ones who listen through the noise they hear, the dreams and doubts, the hopes and fears. From welcoming a stranger to soothing a storm, they make connections feel like home, safe and warm. They design spaces where we can learn and grow. With every thread they weave, a community's glow. From Auckland to Amsterdam, they lead the way, building bridges in Richmond, Melbourne, and Brisbane today. Here's to the ones who keep us together through highs and lows in all kinds of weather. Building a world where we can be free. Community managers, the heart of we. Let's celebrate, let's cheer, let's honor their role, for they're the soul of every soul.
They craft a journey from first hello to lifelong friendships that only grow.
Moderating, mentoring, sparking delight, hosting meetups from morning till night. In Cambridge or Torquay, they stand tall. Their passion and purpose inspire us all. From Sydney to San Francisco, their work is clear, creating spaces where we can share and cheer. Here's to the ones who keep us together through highs and lows in all kinds of weather. Building a world where we can be free. Community managers, the heart of we. Let's celebrate, let's cheer, let's honor their role, for they're the soul of every soul.
Between Led by Community and the Community Collective's core, we've united to celebrate Community Manager Appreciation Day for all. Meetups in cities from Berlin to Brisbane, in every corner their impact is insane.
This day is theirs, we'll sing it proud. To the champions who lead, let's shout it out loud. From Torquay to Auckland, their touch is pure. In every heartbeat of our world, their legacy sure. Here's to the ones who keep us together through highs and lows in all kinds of weather. Building a world where we can be free. Community managers, the heart of we. Let's celebrate, let's cheer, let's honor their role, for they're the soul of every soul.
To the architects of belonging, we owe so much.
The ones who lead with kindness, with a healing touch.
On this special day,
Let's show our gratitude to community managers, the champions of our truth.
Hi, everyone. That's one hell of a song, Francisco. Thanks for sharing it with us. And with that, welcome everyone to the third episode of Talks and Pros. And we're thrilled to have you here for today's session. Take a moment to settle in while we wait for everyone to join in, and we'll start in a few moments. And grab a coffee, cup of coffee, grab tea, get comfortable because Margot has a lot to share uh, here. Also, let us know in the chat where you're all joining us from and what time is it. Because I love to I love to see the time difference that even with the time difference we're coming together to learn all from such experts. So let us know in the comments. Hi Heather. You can also drop your LinkedIn profile in the chat and connect with everyone joining us here. Uh, yeah, right, Valentino. It would be a tough night with coffee from your own. Hi, Kate. Uh, I'm joining from Goa. It's a small state in southern part of India, and it's 9:38 p.m. here. So yeah, no more coffee or tea for me either. Glad to see so many people joining us from so many different time zones. 4 p.m. Hi, Molly. Hi, Greg. Hi, Frederick. You can also share what you are looking forward to learn from this Talks and Pros this episode of Talks and Pros. And if you have anything in your mind that you're looking forward to, please do share it in the chat. Meanwhile, a huge shout out to Better Mood for supporting the Talks and Pros series. Uh, the support has made it possible for these events. And if you'd like to learn more, check out the boxes below this streaming. And also, we have more episodes coming in of Talks and Pros. And on January 21, we have Envision, Map, and Build with Francisco. On January 28th, we have Supercharge Your Community with Jen Durkee. And on 27th, and around those dates, we are celebrating Global Community Managers Day celebration. And following that, we have London Community Week. So it's jam packed, folks, and it's going to be one hell of a year. Okay, as we go through the session, feel free to drop your questions for Margot in the chat, and we'll gather them and go through them as many as possible when we start the Q&A session. Also, the recording of the session will be available in our video library, and you can visit it anytime. And with that, I would like to introduce Margot. Not that she needs an introduction. Margot Miller is a global community builder, viral TEDx speaker, and recognized LinkedIn top voice in emceeing and community organizing. She is sorry. She specializes in fostering meaningful online connections and cultivating a sense of belonging among distributed teams and communities. An accomplished host, speaker, and moderator, Margot has been invited to speak around the world, bringing energy and clarity to complex topics, helping audiences engage with innovation, technology, and human connection in AI-driven world. Like I'm running out of words here. And her TEDx talk, "Why You're Better at Online Networking," was a TED editor's pick and has garnered over 30K views. Also, and this is the latest news, starting January 24, Margot's TEDx talk will be featured on TED.com with a dedicated page at for Margot. I'll share the link in the chat. You can go there after January 2024 and you can see her talk. Over to you, Margot.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Akash, for having me, for doing the introduction. Appreciate you being here and everyone who is in the chat today. We're going to make it interactive as we go. So just like Akash was having you do, get ready, keep your keyboard handy beside your cup of coffee. And I'm excited to get right in. Akash, thank you so much. And Francisco and everyone behind the scenes. Okay, so jumping into it, we are, of course, talking about community building for early stage startups. We can probably skip this one quickly here, but I do, like I said, want you to use the chat. So you've already told us who you are, where you're from. So if you feel like skipping 1 and 2, feel free. But tell me then, number 3, name me one community or group that you've joined that you absolutely love. Okay, so this could be a community for new moms. This could be the running club you're part of, or maybe you have a book club, or you're a gamer, whatever it is you're part of, or you're part of a group or community and that you love. It could be led by community. Maybe this is the one you love the most, shout it out, or your own. If your startup has a community already going and you want to plug it and shout it out, that's cool. Put it in the chat. And if you have it in you, tell us why you like it too. Like if there's one thing that really stands out that makes it special, or that you feel like it gives you. It's going to be perfect because we're going to be talking about this today as we kind of come full circle. Valentina, Girls in Marketing. I love it. There's a lot of amazing like female groups out there, or women. I'm part of a lot of women in tech groups. They can be really special for kind of bringing this sense of connection and belonging that we're all looking for. Manique from India. He loves a couple of communities, which is awesome, as well as like a digital nomad community. So really a part of, I think, what a lot of us are working in, those kind of communities that are spread out. They're not in the same spot. You know, some of those examples I was giving, like New Moms or Running Club, those are physical in person, right? But I'm part of a book club that's virtual. We are not meeting in person. And so maybe that allows me that chance to find people a little closer to what I'm looking for. So lots of options, but we're going to get into it. Now, I'm going to have you do a little activity with me here. Just what it says on top of the screen. I want you to close your eyes. Okay? I know it's silly. Do it for me. Close your eyes. Come on. Indulge me. Okay. Imagine a world where your startup's users become your most powerful force. Okay? They're driving immense growth for you through word of mouth. They're vocal. They're helpful. They're also informing and driving your product roadmap because they're giving you meaningful feedback. This is saving you from making costly mistakes. They're acting as your true ambassador out in the world. Okay, open your eyes. That felt good, right? We all want that dream for our business. And luckily, for all of you here today, all of you tuning in or watching the recording later, it's the reality for companies who harness the power of community. Now, let me tell you a story. So in 2013, there was a small startup that launched a really bold vision. They wanted to make design skills accessible to everyone. So they created a product and they put out a whole template gallery of designs right at its center to make it really easy for people to get started designing. And they were hoping that it was far less intimidating than using the blank page that we had in traditional design software. Remember when you used to try and use Photoshop, but you weren't the person to actually do how, and it took you an hour to try and eliminate something in the background and you still didn't do it? Yeah. Well, this company quickly realized that this idea alone wasn't enough. They had a problem. Their users didn't have the confidence to use those designs. So they were there, they made sense, but people just didn't have that confidence. So what do you think that they did? Well, If you're thinking that they might have built a community, because that's where we're going with this, then you're right. They introduced free interactive tutorials and they built a community. But this community didn't just use that product, they became its champions. The users themselves created tutorials, they shared tips, and they developed their own design templates that they shared so those who were newer could use them, and it was a nice cycle. This was really organic growth. Arguably, organic growth, the best kind of growth, right? And the startup fostered this. They really empowered their users to participate in this growth with them. And as word spread, the user base exploded. The company began then having to share clear guidelines and community values to keep things on track. And by 2015, their community was in the millions. They grew through user to user engagement. And knowing what their users now wanted, they were able to focus on nurturing and supporting their most passionate users. They launched programs to further engage those super users. They added more educational content to keep helping everyone. And they even ended up paying out millions in royalties to some of those creators, which I'm not necessarily recommending you do, but we're going to get to a lot of these insights throughout today's presentation. Because today, this startup turned tech giant now boasts over 220 million monthly active users in over 190 countries, and they have 550 super users, and all of this continues to drive their growth. Now, do you know who I'm talking about? If you have a quick guess, feel free to put it in the chat. This is your few seconds. I am talking about the story of Canva. The story of Canva and their Canvasadors. And this is a company that harnessed the power of community to grow from what was truly a small startup started in someone's house to a $40 billion business. Their success shows us that when you build a thriving community around your product or your service, your users can become your most powerful growth engine. So, let me ask you, what could a passionate, engaged community do for your startup's growth? I encourage you to actually think about this because we're going to get back to this shortly. So let's for now answer in the chat for me. Do you have a community strategy already in place for your business? And you can just drop the number if you want in the chat. So 1, yes, I do. 2, sort of have a community strategy. We're just starting. 3, no, not yet. And maybe that's why you're here. And 4, you're going to decide after today if it's something you even want to do. And if you don't have a community yet, don't worry. That's, of course, why we're here. We're going to talk a lot about some of the first things you should think about. If it's something that you really want but you don't have yet, please type, I want one in the chat. That'll give me a sense of where you're at. And if you're a 2 or a 3, maybe what's holding you back? Is there something that you've been waiting to really find out? Is it budget? Is it resources? Is there something that's stopping you? Maybe you're not sure of the value. I see a good mix here. Some of you do have communities already, which is great. Please do use the chat throughout today. It'll help me kind of tailor where we spend some of our time. I appreciate that. So, and if you're 4s, that's great. Thanks for coming. If you aren't inspired yet by this story, I'm going to give you right now a few key reasons why you should think about creating a community. Now, let's look at Adobe, for example. They use a remote community engagement strategy that includes virtual workshops and feedback sessions that they facilitate regularly. If you're part of Adobe, if you use it, maybe you've been to one, they poll their users regularly on what works and what they need. They have little feedback sessions people can come to, and there's chat where people can do it. A community can really offer you direct access to your users so that they can give you real-time feedback, which actually does dual duty because it fosters belonging and it accelerates your product development. So customer-driven innovation, really awesome reason 1. Reason 2, let me tell you a story here. So I was actually just last week in the shower, I listen to podcasts while I get ready in the morning. And I was listening to this podcast when Duolingo leaders were talking about starting Duolingo. And they said they really believed in community as a growth strategy right from the start. So much so, in fact, that they said no to large social ad spending, Facebook ads, that kind of stuff, due to risk of inflating their startup figures early in terms of members of growth, because they knew they'd have numbers coming in if they did that. But they thought as a startup looking for funding, it would be a risk that wasn't sustainable for them. So they really leaned into organic community, natural growth. So this image here is cool too, because this also shows you Duolingo on Reddit specifically, where in fact, it's one of the largest communities on Reddit in the top 1% of member count of communities. So they've really done a good job also being outside of their one platform. Basically here, passionate community members can be your organic brand ambassadors. They spread the word, they attract new users through things like word of mouth promotion. And this can significantly reduce your customer acquisition costs and fuels scalable growth from the start. So a great example there. Number 3, support. So active communities provide a built-in peer-to-peer support network. Now you're already saving money again here because your customer service costs can be cut, right? So this is where members, they can help each other solve problems, they share knowledge. And this is amazing because it reduces the burden on your lean support team that you likely have. And it also enhances overall user satisfaction. So in this example here, the Shopify community is where merchants can help each other troubleshoot issues. They share ideas and success strategies, and it leads to retention on the platform. But generally, why does this work? Well, people like the way it feels to help others, right? Like if someone in the chat today were to ask you something and you knew the answer, it feels good to give them that answer, to be a thought leader. And as I'm sure you know already, people trust organic peer reviews online and insights way more than what comes from you as the company directly. So this creates a more overall positive experience with your product or service. Reason number 4, a strong engaged community fosters emotional connections with your brand. It boosts loyalty, retention rates, and lifetime value. This creates a strong user base, but it's also a key factor in users' long-term commitment to you. So a great example here are lifestyle communities. So this example here is Peloton. I'm a member of Peloton, the community, and I use it to bond with my friends and others over our shared fitness goals. And I'm not like a fitness freak or anything like that, like very average person, but it gives me a place to kind of do that really comfortably, adding me to their loyal and long-term customer base. Oh, I can see, yes, if you have questions, put them in the chat. That's awesome. Thanks, Paula. So reason number 5, this is the last one I'll give you as why, because some of you already know you really want it. So this is probably extra just fun information for you. But active communities serve as a gold mine of information about what your customers need and their preferences. And if you think about it, you're basically capturing insights of your users right in your own space. So it gives you valuable market insights. It creates a sense also of co-ownership because they're part of that discussion. They feel like they're informing some of your decisions, which further strengthens their bond to you. A good example here are content communities. We talked about Canva. So they have a design hub where users can share templates and tutorials, which strengthens this sense of co-ownership and collaboration. And then they're there to give you that information. You can see without even asking anyone, if there's 100 templates for a resume and there's only 2 templates for a social media, post, then what's the thing that your site should maybe do more of, right? Or what do you think your people are asking you for? You can see it without even asking. So let's answer in the chat. Are you ready to go deep building your community? So I know a bunch of you were ones, you already have a community, but you're here today for a reason. So hopefully that is number 1 here that you're going to say. And these 5 great reasons maybe gave you some ideas already of what kind of community angles that you might want to consider approaching with yours. That's the thing with today is that we're going to talk about a lot of the guts of starting a community, but there's a lot of different kinds and the nuances of them vary. But tell me, are you ready to jump in deep with building your community? Put a 1. If you're a yes, please tell me how. I promise we're getting into the guts right now. Or a 2, maybe you're still not sure, and that's okay too. Stick that in there if that's you, because we're going to share a bunch. I do see a question in the chat too about how we shrink the time to build a successful community, like if you're going from 0 to 50. And we're going to talk a bunch about how you get those first active members today and what that cycle can look like. So we'll come back to that at the end if we haven't quite covered it. But awesome, everyone. I'm glad there's some number 1s coming in. Okay. I adore this cycle that is on your screen. This is curated from a few different sources, and I combined it in a way that I think adds to it and lays it out really nicely. In fact, this one slide, and I'm going to share like a little outside branch of it in just a minute, could alone be a masterclass in community all on its own. But we're only going to skim it today, okay? So here we go, starting at the top. Now, when someone decides to join a new community, they decide that some aspect of their personal identity aligns to that collective identity. And it's important that we're extremely clear when we're building our own on what and who our community is for. That way, people can properly self-identify with it. So this is a super important first step. Identity also starts with the important element of initiation, which is typically a member's very first experience once they're inside the community. So this is something like a welcome message, and you want to make sure they really match. Is it backing a very clear picture of why they participate, who they are? You should be able to walk into that community, if that's virtually, and feel like I belong here, this is for me, because things are so clear on who you accept and don't. And we're talking about this more in a minute because it's often a mistake people make of being too broad. Now, moving along, they begin to trust the community. And over time, the member's identity will start to further reflect the communities as they become more engaged and more intertwined. Now, there's two types of trust that you can have here. There's trust in the community as a whole, and there's trust in other specific members in the community, that human-to-human connection, right? And both of those must exist for it to be a strong community and for them to fuel each other. Now, participation, they must know how to participate and be encouraged to participate. This instruction on the how is often overlooked, but it is key. Now, participation also doesn't mean that a member has to create content for you or be a bold super ambassador, but consuming can also be a form of participation. And if you have a member chat area, for example, you want to facilitate true engaging discussions instead of forcing engagement for engagement's sake, because this is where people are going to notice that and feel that, right? Because if you do that, it disregards emotional connection of serving people's needs. Now, also to get back to identity at the top, members need to feel like their participation that they've just done for you is validated. So this can be as simple as liking a post, or as complicated as gamification with monetary rewards. But no matter what, rewards release dopamine. This is why social media works so well, right? Even a like releases that dopamine hit and tells our brain that it was a good experience, and it makes us want to participate again. So just make sure here, if someone puts a message in your chat, that it doesn't go unanswered. It doesn't go unreacted to, because it's not going to encourage them to want to come back and do it again. We need to think, what do we as the company contribute to the community? And what does the community contribute to us? I think a lot of times when people are designing new communities, they think about those first 5 ideas I said and all the reasons it's good for you. But at this stage here, you really have to also think about, like, what are we contributing to each other? And if we can find that mutual benefit and they feel like the value and the reward matches them, then it forms a habit loop and they keep coming back. Okay, so I did preface this by saying this is a masterclass in a slide. I know that's a lot. We're going to get into some of the nuances of it. We do still have a lot to cover, but I'm just going to stop here for a second. You can scan this and grab the slides, and we'll make sure you get a chance to get those afterwards too. I know that these slides I can send you personally, but I know Francisco and the team here will have this whole recording available to watch back again. If you want to go over that more slowly, you can reduce my speed and cover anything that you want to cover. But this is an opportunity to remind you, put your questions in the platform, in the comment area, and I'll try and go over them as we go, or at the end, we're going to leave time for questions. So we'll get to them for sure, but wanted to drop this here for a second. And I see Anita, great question about kind of some incentives. What are some of those rewards we can do? I've got a slide for you on that coming up. Okay, awesome. So let's continue. How do we get things going and take advantage of all these amazing benefits of having a community? Now, we're going to speed through each of these elements of the process today. So buckle up. But to start us off, we just touched on it a second ago, that identity piece at the top, right? You have to really truly know who your community is for. So who is it for and what problem does it solve? And this stage of defining your community is critical. Even a lot of you who put that number 1 to the first question in the chat, you may want to go back and really make sure that it's nuanced and clear, and that everything you do is driving toward that same key problem that you're trying to solve for your community. And I'll say, here's the hard truth. I know for a fact, some of you are ready to tell me, hey, Margaux, I know what my focus is. We're so clear. And then I'm going to ask you what it is. And you're going to say, my community is for everyone who likes sports, or anyone who wants to save money is part of my community. But I'm sorry to tell you, that isn't enough. You need to go deeper. Ask yourself these questions for clarity on what your community is and who it's truly for. Now, this may be crass, but I like to say, building a community is like planting a garden. You need to know what kind of plants you're nurturing, or they will shrivel up and die. It's just the truth. So this is a screenshot kind of slide. We don't have time to go over every question here today, but grab these or grab the slides that we just shared the link to in the chat. And then these are, you're going to want to do an exercise going through each of these and really asking if you can answer those questions clearly. And if you message me privately, I can give you a little more guts under each one too, which is obviously not on the slide. And we can go over that. Now, the second step here is to really meet members where they are. And be sure to match your group's goals to what the group needs. So for example, forums are for discussions. Slack or chat platforms are for real-time collaboration, and so on. So there are specific functions for the different areas of what your group might need. So what do you feel your group needs, and what are they going to actually be willing to do? You will have already figured out some of this in step 1 when you really get into the nuance of who your community is for, which will make this second step a lot easier. There are tons of really amazing platforms. Led by Community uses Circle. You can play around with that one because you're part of this community. See if you like that. But there's a cost to a lot of those really nice platforms. So I encourage you, start with a free or low-cost tool before scaling. People often ask, like, can I use a Facebook group? Yes, some people have done that very well. So it just totally depends on what your community is looking for. And that's why today we can't give a perfect nuance for each one because there are so many options. But I do also have an enterprise. A couple people in the community world have written really good articles comparing enterprise level platforms. I can send you those links too. So just let me know if that's what you need. Okay. Now, when it comes to attracting and engaging your first members, I want you to think small. Actually. So I know this sounds funny, but trust me, it is highly discouraged to do a large marketing style launch of a new community because of that reason we were talking about earlier of wanting our community to be like really organic growth, because that's when you're going to get the true supporters and that strongest word of mouth. And you're not going to kind of overdo something that you can't sustain. We often think about it in the way of using like personal outreach or exclusive invites that really can work best. And someone asked earlier about going from like 0 to 50. At that level, talk to everyone individually. Actually have someone whose role it is, and it's going to be maybe only part of their role at that early stage, right? Until you're ready to hire someone. But have them reach out with a personalized invite for each person, not an AI one that's a mass blast. Like if you have only 0 to 50, this is a perfect time to have those really bought in and exclusive invitations to what it is that you're doing and why that person should be a part of it. Now you want to test and refine with your early members because you have this chance to really speak to them on what they're looking for. Do try and get a bit of a good sample size and a diverse sample group, but there are a lot of kind of things you can do at this stage to get that buy-in. I'll give you a quick example. One thing I've seen work really well, and actually Francisco has it in this community, but I've seen it work really well with like women in tech communities and some others I'm a part of, is that you call your early adopters something. For example, a common one is like a founding member. These people didn't actually like put money into founding the business or the community. But what they've done is they're founding members in the sense that like they were early adopters. They raised their hand and said, I want to be part of the community early. And so you can give those people a badge to show that, or just give them the title and tell them they can flaunt their involvement on their social media profiles. This is going to help you get word of mouth and grow organically. And it also helps with deepening those early users' attachment to your community. I'll tell you, I just had a call a little while ago with a guy named Adam. He might even be here today. And on his profile, he had a message about being part of a professional networking association. And right away, I was like, what is this thing? Like, I identify with that. I'm a connector. I'm a networker. And actually, it's something that he started himself. So it opened up a really amazing conversation. But if this had been like a founding member of that association, I still would have asked the question because it resonated with me. And then it would have been free marketing for that group. Right? So really cool, early little things you can do that don't cost you anything. Now, boundaries are the next step. And they are, in fact, a key pillar when we talk about community building. In fact, we went back to that cycle and I had time to get deeper. Boundaries are in there. This is an opportunity to create clear rules for behavior and for people's contributions. And I know rules and boundaries sometimes sound limiting. When we go back to that example of defining your community, when you say, no, but Margaux, it's truly everyone who loves sports that's part of my community. It's not typically that easy. And we need to have boundaries because without them, it doesn't actually make us feel like it's a space that we belong. If something is for everyone, then it's for no one at the same time. So when it comes to these rules, think of the example of like why VIP membership clubs work so well. Okay, it's because everyone knows who's in and who's out. And there's a certain unspoken understanding and respect automatically between those who are in a VIP membership club, right? And you don't have to actually ask. You don't have to say, do you deserve to be here, right? You know that there's been some vetting and there's been, payment or whatever. And you know that those people belong there if they're already there. Right? So you can skip those first steps of explaining who you are. Like a gaming community is the same thing. If there's a niche gaming community for a specific game, you don't need to ask those people if they're into those kind of games. Like they're there because they are, right? And so you have that sense of connection and identity and belonging right away. But the boundaries are important, and then the rules of contributions are important. Again, there are lots of examples online of communities that have community guidelines that you can follow. If you literally Google, like WordPress has a public one that's very easy to find. Basically, when you're new, though, you can involve your members early in designing those guidelines. It's another way that you can build buy-in and ownership, right? So all these steps, like try and involve your early members. Now, remembering again that cycle at the start, recognition, so that validation, that reward, that recognition, it fuels engagement. So you want to start simple. I highly encourage you to start with intrinsic, non-monetary rewards as your focus. Aim for a really personal touch. You could do things like celebrate milestones with personalized thank you notes. A milestone might be as simple as like you signed up officially and you finished your profile, right? A milestone might be you've been here for a year. A milestone might be you did your first big contribution, like a blog post for the group or something like that, right? Also, you can highlight community members' contributions. So if someone does a bunch of those things, maybe they're the community member of the week, right? Take this example here, led by community. They do it. Francisco does a lot of really amazing community strategy things that you may not kind of realize are part of this behind the scenes. But this example features a member of the community in a short self-filmed video, and they use an app to capture them, which makes it extra easy because the app tells you, which direction it wants you to be. It prompts the question on the screen in front of you. It lets you redo it if you don't like it, and it gives you like a certain time limit. And all of that is done so that when the video goes to Led by Community, they have this great profile. They can put it up and they can feature their members in these nice posts that they have with a different dynamic. And again, like low cost, not a ton of work. Let people say what they want to say. Vet it for uncertainty of like vulgar things or rudeness or threats or whatever. But otherwise, unlikely in these great communities. You can just go ahead and use those, and you've got this great content. Now, the next step is about nurturing those super users, though. So that was just kind of active engagement, just like the Canva story at the very start. You want to find ways first to identify and then empower your most engaged and active members. So this is things like you can give them a leadership role. Maybe that's volunteering to moderate your event. Maybe that's, being the chat moderator and starting discussion. So maybe every day they're encouraged to post a certain article about whatever it is you're working on, and then people can encourage people to comment. You can also give them exclusive perks of some kind. So first access to the new game, or being part of an advisory group where you're inviting them personally to your advisory group to help curate the next project that you're working on. And again, like we talked about earlier, that's going to give them that sense of buy-in and belonging, right? And then later, as you scale, you can develop a formal community ambassador program. This is where you've got, you can see great examples of this online. Many people have created these. We created one when I was with Toptal. We had people all over the world that were part of it. It's a great like one-to-many strategy where you coach those ambassadors on what it is that you want them to represent, knowing where all the good information is, the answers to the tough questions that your community might have. And then you actually put them into that role, which again, then they have a title they can use, they get that deeper buy-in, and it's a really great cycle. But a formal community ambassador program takes a lot of work. So it's not something you should try and stand up day one. Instead, just start to use some of those other strategies that we just mentioned. So a good example would be, say you love beauty products, okay? And so you decide to start sharing your looks using a certain brand of products. And then you answer questions from people using some of your favorites. And in return, you could earn points toward discounts on those products. Well, Sephora's Beauty Insider community does just that. They also nurture their super users by featuring their content and inviting them to exclusive events like you see here. So they're not immediately paid, but there are these opportunities. And then these opportunities of events are great content and photo ops for the brand. And so then they also get more value. And it's one, we go back to that earlier thing of what can the community give you and what can you give the community? So it goes both ways. Now, finally, have a mindset to really take in and use feedback as you go. It's important to refine your strategy, to not be like super locked in at the beginning. You do want a clear picture of who your community is for, but there's this opportunity to really like listen and evolve as you go. Just like any good startup, you've got to just start and get it out there. And then there's iteration naturally as you get that feedback from your users live, right? Start to introduce automation as you scale, make things a little bit easier. You want to document what works too. I'm a big playbook fan. So document, and then you can expand organically from there. And eventually, as your resources grow, hire a fractional community manager or a dedicated community manager if you're ready to jump all the way in, because community is an everyday job. Ask anyone here who's doing it full time. There is no end to it. You don't just have like a silver bullet that I can give you and then you have a community and it's perfect. You have to engage and nurture it every single day. And while you might be wondering, okay, what does evolution look like? Or you might be asking, when can I expect more from my members? Like I have this number one earlier, right? I have a community started, but I need to get it going. Like, how do I do that? Well, here's some very small looking graphs for you, but again, you can get the slides later. This is an adapted community commitment curve, we call it. I didn't create this. It's from somebody else. They're referenced. We'll reference them on the slides for you. But the concept here is simple. Over time, a member's level of commitment goes up, right? And thus, so too does their level of actions that they're prepared to do for you. So early on, members take low effort action, like I signed up, I made my profile, maybe I gave a thumbs up to something, right? We want to present them with options that are indeed low effort so that they can do those and keep progressing, right? Eventually, as they move up the curve, they take on high effort actions. And here on the left is how we visualize the stages of commitment, okay? So kind of like easy, simple stages of commitment. But on the right, the reason this is so small, this is an example that maps out the main actions that a member might take over the course of their membership. So it's small font, but things in here range from like looking at photos to commenting on blogs, to joining a subgroup, to attending and maybe even hosting an event. Okay, so as a member becomes more engaged, they'll take actions that require more and more effort. So try and make sure that you're not asking people to do the top stuff right at the very beginning. It's unlikely, and you might then actually see drop off and feel discouraged. So again, on the right, just an example. And people, of course, jump around a little bit as well. So Akash, I see you here and your timing is perfect because I know that was a lot. But just know this, building a thriving community is not about doing everything at once. It's about starting small and staying focused and scaling as you grow. And I know that building a community from scratch can seem daunting, but if you break it into manageable steps, I promise it's achievable, even with limited startup resources. And I personally wish you the best in this journey of starting or growing your own community. And Akash, you are here for questions, which is so perfect. I'm going to ask a first question to the audience, which is a quick poll. Give me a 1 if you're going to start implementing some of what you learned today. Give me a 2 if you think that you're not going to start implementing it until sometime this quarter. And give me a 3 if you're hopeful, but you're still not sure. So when are you going to start implementing? Today? This quarter? Or, oh, you're still not quite sure? I love seeing a lot of 1s. Good job, everyone. Awesome, awesome. Okay, a couple 2s this quarter. That's fair because there's prep work involved, right, in getting this stuff started. And a 3, Deb, that's fair. It's a lot of work getting a community going. Appreciate you being here and learning and being honest. Akash, you froze for me for a second, but are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Whoa, that was amazing. Even though I was not in front of the camera, but I was listening to it all, and wow, just amazing. It's so much value and so much learnings to take from it, and I'm sure I'm gonna go through it once again. Slow down your pace a little.
I know.
I need to make my notes.
Yeah, I wanted to get through a lot today because there are a lot of steps to it, and definitely we'll give you the slides and get you the notes, and everyone can take that time to really think about it a little further.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, yeah. So let's take some questions from the comments.
Yeah, please. What have you got for me?
Okay, so we have a question from Kostub. How do you shrink the time to build a successful community, say going from 0 to 500 active members?
Yeah, and we talked about that a little bit. I think you don't want to be spending all your time figuring out automation and things at that really early phase. Realistically, when it's early, you want to focus on true connection with the people that are already in your community, those very few that are just there at the beginning. Ask them why they're part of it or what they're interested in. And then you can find more people like them. Leverage the network you already have, leverage the partnerships you already have. Ask those people for their people, right? We don't need to be thinking about the whole world right away. Just think about the people that you know. I actually had a friend in Winnipeg launch a community couple days ago on LinkedIn. She doesn't even have a platform yet. She just has an email intake list because she's kind of going, I think people want this. I don't know yet. And she put this post out. It's gotten 150 comments. Everyone wants to be part of this. It's a community for women who are consultants in our city to try and support each other. And it's already at, hundreds of people that have signed up for her email list. And it was one LinkedIn post that she started to socialize first. She talked to some of her friends first. Someone like me said, hey, I want to do this thing. Does it resonate with you? Would you go to that thing? She's just hosting one event for 25 people and it's sold out in 10 seconds. And she's got this big list of wait list for the next one. So just use those personal connections that you have. Okay. Did we lose Akash again? Oh no. I think there you are.
Hello.
Okay, well, while we're waiting for Akash to pop back in, hopefully everyone's still hearing me here. To go with that question we just had, I'll say that one of the things I often get asked is just should every startup leverage community? or like when is it right or not. And definitely not every startup needs a community right away. I did give you 5 really great reasons at the beginning why a community is amazing, but I also told you that it's a lot of work, right? And so it depends on your goals and the resources that you have. It is right to want a community and plan it if you are looking for direct feedback and engagement from users to improve your product. If your product or service benefits from network effects, so like Airbnb, Duolingo, right? Like the users are the product and service. Or if you have a clear audience with shared needs or interest, and you know conversation is going to bolster that. Those are all really good reasons to start your community early and slow and organically, and just start that process from the very beginning. Because if you do start it early, you're going to see so much value as you move along with your business. And you also have all those names then in a list, right? You have all those contacts so that you can leverage them as you need to down the road. Just remember reciprocal value as you're going through that. It's maybe not right for you if you don't have the bandwidth to nurture it consistently, or an active or poorly run community, because that can hurt your brand. So do make sure you have that buy-in, that bandwidth, that that you're ready if it starts to grow to hire that fractional community person or a full-time person eventually. Also, if you still have an audience that's really broad and undefined, it's not right for you. That's that first step that I really spent time on, as fast as we were, making it really hard to build meaningful connections. If you don't have that clarity for your audience, they'll get stuck on that first identity piece of that cycle we looked at the beginning. Okay, do we have any other questions?
Yes, we have one from Anita, and she's asking, what are some compelling incentives for getting super users excited and engaged to drive the growth you're talking about? But I feel we have already talked about that in the presentation that you've just shared.
Yeah,
Anything
bit.
else
I
you'd like to add to
probably
that?
give a few more. So rewards like low cost, flexible rewards that have a personal touch are all really great. So this could be like early access to features or exclusive content. It could be personalized thank you notes or emails. It could be member spotlights, which we talked about, right? We showed the video one, but it could just be you like showing a picture in a quick sentence. Like it could even be like, we saw you participated in this discussion. Maybe you'd like this thing happening over here, and here's a link to register, like just personalized connections. It could be recognition badges. And this one doesn't sound easy. I know badges sound like a big product endeavor, but I've seen really cool free ones work really well. So kind of like giving people that title that we talked about where they can put it on their LinkedIn, like founding member. The next thing with badges that you could do is go in Canva, right? Free design tool. We started talking about, I feel like I like work for Canva today. I don't, but to create simple badge images, and then something like top contributor or community hero, and then award them manually to people based on their engagement or their helpfulness. Like just send it in an email or a chat area to them, whatever tool you're using, and say, hey, this is for you. Feel free to share it. We're so proud of your involvement in our community. And you can use those two to celebrate milestones, right? So you could give them a badge for like their 1 year with you or an action they took. And then those people will then take those things and repurpose them, use them on their social media. And that gives you that natural word of mouth while also rewarding people in your community for the actions that you want them to take, which then other people see and hopefully they do it. So there are things like that you can do. You create one badge one time. And then as long as you're tracking your users in some way, you can give out that badge manually at the right times. So it doesn't need to be crazy gamification for it to really work for you.
Gamification at the right place at the right time can do wonders. I agree.
What else do we
Okay,
have?
we have one last question from Manik. Suppose we built a community and now we want to dissolve it. And what is the best way to do that?
There's an amazing case study on this that I read a while ago. Monique, I'll try and find it for you. Just like DM me later. But I mean, clearly what we're talking about today is a startup wanting to create it. So I don't want to spend too much time on this here, but really quick tips, and these work like in general in a community, is to communicate transparently. Even if you make a mistake, so this doesn't even have to be dissolving, but if you made a mistake somewhere along the way, you deleted files that your members really loved. Communicate transparently, explain the reasons why that happened, or in this case, the reasons why you're shutting down the community. and give members advance notice, provide clear timelines, especially if they're like used to being able to reach certain people on your platform that maybe they don't have anywhere else yet. Encourage people to connect somewhere else like LinkedIn or somewhere they can get that connection. And then provide closure, like you could host a final event, a final discussion, a post to celebrate the community's achievements so far and just acknowledge their contributions before closing it off. Where are you redirecting them? How do they maintain those key relationships? So really just share, communicate, like be really brave and bold and share what's going on and how they can continue those relationships. That's the best thing that you can do to just really end it gracefully. And if you foresee the possibility of reactivating that community in the future, I know that happens with startups sometimes. They start something and they're like, listen, I don't know we can sustain this. Then frame everything I just talked about, but as a pause rather than as a full dissolution so that you can leave that door open.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Margaux, for your amazing insights today. I'm still overwhelmed with all the information that I just gathered. And yeah, it's
Did we lose him? Paula, maybe you want to jump on and do the closing for us. I know there's a few things that you guys wanted to say. Yes, Deb, the video will be available on the Led by community. They have a resource library and they'll post about it for sure and probably even share it on LinkedIn to redirect. So yes, definitely. And you can get the slides from me too. I'll put my link in the chat right now. Hey, Paula.
Hey everyone. So we are about to close. Just a last question here. Quick question, Margaux, because Ali said please ask. So what KPIs are the most important to check for our community as founder in a small startup?
Haha. Yeah, measurement is a big one. I wanted to cover it today, but honestly, we just ran out of time. The biggest, so like it's a big answer. Please feel free to add me on LinkedIn and ask me there, and I can just dump like a longer answer for you. But basically, you have to figure out like what are your goals? Your metrics should align to your goals. So ask yourself, why does the community exist, and what does success look like? Then you can define clear objectives for your community and choose metrics that directly reflect those objectives. You want to focus really on like actual engagement over just size, because anyone can like pay for users or bring people in who just never look again, right? So number is not the perfect, like look at it for sure, look at your growth rate, but try and look at active participation rates in some kind, depending what tool you're using to measure. So posts, replies, event attendance, connections being made, purchases coming directly from links that are in your platform, things like that. Basically, engagement, retention, and growth metrics are all things that you should look at. And then again, there's more and more, but iterate, make sure they met your goals, and there's a lot of resources I can send you on looking at your metrics.
So thank you. Akash is back to close for us.
yeah, the platform is not accepting me today. Thank you, Margaux. Thank you for your amazing insights today. Your tips, your stories, they were all truly inspiring, and we are really grateful for your time and all your experience that you've shared with us here. Let's give Margaux a virtual round of applause, everyone, and stay connected. We'll drop her LinkedIn in the chat for everyone who wants to connect with her. And if they have any more questions, I'm sure she'll be more than happy to answer them in the DM like she has.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for organizing. Led by Community, Francisco, Paula, Akash. It's so awesome to have been here. And thank you, everyone, for your activity in the chat. That's really helpful when you're on virtual events.
Thank you. Bye-bye.